Hi everyone. As Shavu'ot is starting this evening, it's a time of stories, and in particular, it's a time for us to think about the story of the Torah. So I wanted to read you one of my favorite stories, which as you can see is very well loved in our household, called Little Red Reading Hood. I apologize, it's backwards, it's the hazard of Zoom, but hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I do. Little Red Reading Hood by Lucy Rowland. Little Red Reading Hood loved reading books, always curled up inside crannies and nooks. She read in the bathroom, she read on the porch, she read late at night by the light of a torch. Flicking through pages, her little head bowed, dreaming up stories and laughing out loud. But one day her mother said, "What a to-do! Read this old library book's long overdue. You must take it back to the library today. But listen, I've something important to say. Don't ever stray from the path in the wood." "Yes, Mum," said Red, and she pulled up her hood. As Red skipped along, it was lovely and sunny, but suddenly Red felt a little bit funny. A wolf jumped in front of her. Gruffly he said, "Where are you taking that book, Little Red?" "The library," she answered, "to hand it back in." "Oh," said the wolf, and he started to grin. The wolf licked his lips, and he had a good hunch. That Little Red Reading Hood might do for lunch. He thought, "She looks tasty, a flavorsome treat, and maybe I'll read her book after I eat." The wolf had a plan, so he said with a smile, "But why don't you stay here and read for a while?" Red was quite tempted. Her book was so good. So she strayed from the path, and she sat in the woods. 10 minutes, she said, as she started to read, and off went the wolf at a lightning fast speed. Now books have all sorts of strange magical powers, and that afternoon Red was reading for hours. Meanwhile at the library, what a barbarian! Wolf had tied up Mrs. Jones, the librarian. He put on her glasses and her colorful smock and said to himself, "Red is in for a shock." A few moments later, Red opened the door. "Come in," said the wolf with a wave of his paw. Little Red Reading Hood put her book down and looked at the wolf with a bit of a frown. "Are you quite well, Mrs. Jones?" she inquired. "You look a bit different today. Are you tired?" Red gasped, "What big eyes!" And then Wolf, with a sneer, said, "Yes, all the better for reading, my dear." Red said, "Your ears are hairy as well." "And what," asked young Red, "is that terrible smell?" The wolf ripped his smock off and sprang from his seat. "Enough," cried the wolf. "Now I'm ready to eat." "You can't eat her up," the librarian blubbered, and with a loud heave she flew out of the cupboard. "That's just such an obvious ending," she sighed. "We've heard it before. You at least could have tried. The wolf eats the girl up? Well, that's nothing new." "What?" the wolf puzzled. "But that's what wolves do. Wolves are the bad guys. It says in my book." Little Red Reading Hood gave him a look. She sat by the wolf, and despite her unease, said stories can end any way that you please. "You don't like an ending?" Red Reading Hood said. "Then change it, arrange it again in your head. Just switch it and stitch it up some other way." The wolf nodded slowly and whispered, "Okay." He thought for a moment. "A book of my own? And this time the wolf won't end up all alone." He picked up a book about shoemaking elves, then started to chuckle and searched through the shelves. "I found it," he shouted, and danced a few jigs, then borrowed a book about 3 little pigs. Little Red Reading Hood walked through the wood, the moon shining down on her little red hood. She curled up that night with a book in her hands, and dreamt of huge dragons and magical lands. For whilst leaving footpaths should never be done, straying from stories is all sorts of fun. I wanted to read that to you today because the message of Little Red Reading Hood is entirely about finding a way to take a story you love and make it your own. And Shavuot is all about the same. The story, of course, that we try and learn and to study and to interact with and to rewrite is the Torah. And this is a great time of year to spend some time learning the stories of the Torah, learning about the Torah and seeing if perhaps you can find your own ending and your own take on those stories which are most central to our tradition. Hag Sameach.